Good evening and welcome to the Monday, September 11th AP&W meeting. My name is Alderman Braithwaite. We have a quorum. Is there an approval for the August 14th, 2017 minutes?
Move approval.
Second?
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded. Any questions, comments, or edits? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Alderman Fleming, do you mind taking us to item A1 and A2?
A1, payroll July 24, 2017 through August 6, 2017, $3,142,003.32. Payroll August 7, 2017 through August 20th, 2017, $2,961,853.64. A2 for the bills list dated September 12, 2017, and the amount of $5,226,771.99, and it's for action.
Can we get a second before I?
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded. Alderman Rainey?
Sorry.
Your light, Mike?
I do have a question about, there was a purchase on page 7 for a program that I wholeheartedly support, and that is the Presence Behavioral Health, Mental Health Crisis Services. We made 4 payments for September and October services. So I'm saying that those are payments in advance of the services. And I asked, why are we paying in advance? And on page 5, I'm told that due to our contractual relationship, services are guaranteed to be rendered. However, we will reach out to the contractual vendor and request no more advance invoices prior to services. Well,
Who has that?
I think we should reach out to our purchasing department and tell them, don't pay. They can send all the advance invoices they want. Let's just not pay them. I mean, why would we do that? And I noticed that we're hiring temporary help in the purchasing department, and I certainly hope that we're providing a little bit of supervision there. I think this is very unusual because it's tens of thousands of dollars.
Sure. We have our city manager here.
Alderman Braithwaite, members
Sir.
of the committee, Alderman Rainey, good evening. The contract that we have with Presence is a month-to-month contract. So, again, I think it just depends on how you look at the invoice, that we have already contracted for the services to be rendered. So I think they believe, and rightfully so, that since that contract is in place, they are entitled to 12 payments each year. Certainly, we can reorganize this in such a way that we're still paying them 12 payments, but we will pay them for months once they've occurred. But again, the City Council has authorized a contract. We are authorized to pay. Our purchasing department is authorized to pay. It is not a per call or per use basis. We have contracted for a full year of service. They choose to bill us in 12 increments. And so I don't want this to be looked at as a failing on our purchasing department. It's not. It is how the contract is made out, that it's 12 payments, and certainly we can work with them so that we are making those payments at the conclusion of the month. But at the end of the day, we are still contractually obligated for those 12 payments each year.
Thank you for your response. Alderman Rainey?
That might be true, but I've never seen it happen before, and in fact, I'd like to see the contract. I'm sure it's online someplace, but save me the trouble, I'd like to see the contract. And I hope that we're not paying in advance.
Very good.
Thank you. All right, it's been properly moved and seconded for item A1 and A2. Seeing no additional lights, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries on both items. Item 3A3.1, Alderman Suffredin.
Sure. This is a contract extension with Dunbar Armored Inc. for armored car services in the amount of $84,611.67. This is for action.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded Seeing no lights, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item A 3.2, Alderman Simmons.
Contract with Kenny Construction Company for a 2017 CIP Sewer Rehabilitation Contract B. Staff recommends that the City Council authorize City Manager to execute a contract for the 2017 CIP Sewer Rehabilitation Contract B with Kenny Construction Company in the amount of $339,459. This is for action.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded. Alderman Fleming.
I have a question for staff regarding the waiver that they are requesting for the MWEBE program. Is that you, Dave?
Yes, I can take it.
Okay, so I guess if you can just so that I'm knowledgeable about our requirement for MWEB, they're requesting a waiver because of cost, and I hadn't seen that before, so can you explain that?
The general contractor, in this case, Kenny Construction, can self-perform all the work with their own staff, and it would be more expensive for them to bring on a subcontractor to perform part of the work. And it is specialized work in a way. There's very little opportunity for subcontracting. It would be like sewer cleaning or sewer televising. And because they have the equipment to do that and they prefer to do it to make sure that the job is performed better, they ask for the waiver.
Okay, and then for the LEP, looks like they're going to comply with that. Are they hiring additional workers? It says they already have some Evanston residents. Do you anticipate them hiring additional?
I don't believe that they'll be hiring additional. The program allows, if you have current staff on your payroll, then they can comply without adding more.
Thank you. Seeing no further lights, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Alderman Fleming, item A 3.3, please.
All right. Sorry, let me turn back. This is a change order number 2 to the water treatment plant reliability improvements project agreement with Thiemann Construction. The staff recommends City Council authorize City Manager to execute this change order number 2 for the water treatment plant reliability improvement project with Thiemann Construction in the amount of $7,110 for safety modification to Stonewall ladders. This will increase the total contract to $1,289,721 and extend the final date from October 29th to November 17th. We are getting a loan from the Illinois Environmental Protection Agency with a state revolving fund in the amount of $1,634,816 for engineering and construction. There's a 3% contingency for the bid, and this funding will come out of the Water Fund Capital Improvement Account. This is for action.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded by Alderman Rainey. Seeing no lights, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Alderman Sufferton, item A 3.4, please.
Will I get a turn tonight?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Alderman Rainey. Alderman Rainey, you mind taking item A 3.4, please?
Thank you. This is change order number 1 to the water treatment chemical liquid aluminum sulfate purchase from Affinity Chemical LLC. It's in the amount of $65,000 and will increase the total contract amount from the current contract price of $118,250 to $183,250. I move approval.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded. Alderman Sufferton, you have a question?
I just have a quick question. So we save about $11,400 by doing it this way. Is that correct?
Who wants to take that? Mr. King? Come on up.
Mr. King, could you just walk me through like how that works? I appreciate it.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. So at the end of 2016, we were able to save $11,000 for holding off because the bid prices in 2016 were a lot higher than they were going to be in 2017. So we held off.
Okay. Cool.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Fleming?
Can you just clarify, because I think we just left it off of the packet here, what fund this is from? It gives an account number, but not the fund.
This will be from the water fund.
Okay, thank you.
Do you have another question?
No.
Okay. All right. Seeing no additional lights, all those in favor of passing item 3.4, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Alderman Suffredin, item 3.5, please.
This is the residential refuse collection contract award to Groot Industries, Inc., and it's for action.
Second?
Okay, it's been properly moved and seconded. Seeing no lights, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Did you want to speak to, is that?
Yes.
Yeah, we're
the-
being asked to hold.
The action is to hold it, and I just wanted to clarify that.
Thank you.
It is staff's intent that we give the aldermen and the community time to review all this information.
Thank you.
Digest it, and ask any questions that you might have. So I just wanted to get that out.
Is there going to be a presentation?
There's a short presentation about the solid waste fund at A310, but not on each individual service.
Okay.
Alderman Rainey?
I was going to ask some.
Okay. All right, so everyone's clear on what we're doing, what we're being asked to do. All those in favor of passing item A3.5, please signify by saying aye.
And
Aye.
holding.
Oh, we're holding, excuse me, on holding. And is that the same for A6 as well? A6? But we have a speaker on A3.8? Yes. Okay, so do you need a motion to hold, or how would you like, what's your recommendation?
If any of the aldermen have a question, I'd be glad to try to answer it.
Okay,
Just so if they see it, they get it out in front of them.
perfect. All right. So we're moving then to hold A3.5, A3.6, A3.7. We do have a speaker on A3.8. Ms. Howard, do you want to just get ready, get teed up? And then Alderman Rainey?
So what, Dave, what you're planning for then is for us to be all up to speed on all the programs, and then on is it the 26th?
25th.
The 20, whatever,
On the 25th.
all right. You expect a big discussion in this committee and a presentation and
Yes,
a final decision by the council that night?
correct. So our current contracts expire on November 1st. So yes, I'm hoping it's September 25th that we can award the existing contracts, and as well as the other two that we're proposing, if they please the council. I hope to have some discussion, at least tonight, on A310 about the potential rates, so that at the next council meeting, I could bring ordinances that are in line with the council's direction.
That's good.
Okay. You know, we'll go ahead and ask you to speak on, if you wanted, was that A3.8, and then we'll hold.
First of all, I want to say thank you very much for listening to me this evening and having me here, and thank you to the city staff for recommending Collective Resource for the standalone food scrap collection program. We're interested and eager to move forward with the restaurants and the condos with our 32-gallon tote service, which is what is being brought forth to you right now. Part of our proposal for residential program, which is our 5-gallon bucket service, which 170 Evanston residents already have. And I'm just curious if we're going to speak to when that program is going to be discussed, and what it means for the people who are currently having that service with our company.
Yes.
That is correct, that we received proposals for residential food scrap pickup as well. And it didn't make it into any of the memos, but under our proposed yard waste contract, the contractor that was the low bidder has agreed to accept food scraps into the yard waste carts for the 8.5 months of our normal yard waste collection cycle. And as such, the city doesn't want to have competing interest that the city is recommending that if you have a yard waste cart for 8.5 months, you can throw your food scraps into that. So that's why we didn't, as staff, recommend the residential service to go forward for what you were proposing.
Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Fleming?
Yeah, Ms. Howard, can you come back to the microphone? So can you elaborate, I'll make a full disclaimer here, she lives in my ward and I use her service. So can you elaborate on what you will take from the residents? Because I know it says food scraps here, but I know it to be more elaborate than that.
Well, our program includes meat and dairy, which has been a great benefit to the city over the yard waste service. I'm confident from how the RFP was written that that would be part of the yard waste tag-along program. We've done a huge amount of education for the community. We do zero waste events and have helped a lot of the green fairs and green balls.
Right, but what
be zero
type of
waste.
things aside from from food scraps can go into your bucket?
Oh, the compostable, disposable, greasy pizza boxes, 100% paper plates, but it's all organic material.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So quick question, staff, Dave. Director, so what type of steps are going to be taken to notify our residents regarding this change?
Again, after the contract is awarded, we will, I don't know how much we'll get out in November 1st, and they'll collect yard waste for another month and a half after that. But as soon as the contract is awarded, the city will do all of its normal advertisement that if you have a yard waste cart, you'll be allowed to put food scraps in it. And we have our contractors very clear about the definition of food scraps, so we'll make sure that that's on the flyers and the advertisement as well.
And for those residents who do not have a current yard waste, what's the cost for the container? And do you offer it in different sizes?
No, we would only offer the 95-gallon cart because that is our standard yard waste cart. The bid proposed other size carts, but then that's when the price got more expensive and services were different. So if you have the 95-yard waste cart under our basic yard waste program right now, you'd be able to throw food scraps in that. If you want to get a yard waste cart, you would go through 311 and sign up for it, and we'd deliver it as soon as we potentially could.
And the cost is, again?
I'm not sure of the cost right now for the yard waste cart.
Okay.
It looks like Mr. DiAgostino is coming up.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Current cost for a yard waste cart is $82.50 to purchase the cart, and then a $25 annual fee for the
That's it.
service.
It's not bad. Okay.
Is there anything per month?
Pardon me?
25.
I didn't know that, yeah.
No, it's $25 annually right now.
It's,
And that is one of the rates that we're proposing to be looked at to be modified.
okay. Thank you. Thank you.
So I have one more question. I'm sorry.
Alderman Fleming?
So is it possible, Mr. Stoneback, for you to give a presentation? I feel like even despite maybe our best efforts to advertise, and we're holding this for a couple of weeks, is there some kind of presentation or something we
I
can
can
put
do a
on?
presentation, and I'm willing to hold another meeting if council just
That would
would
be
like to
great.
do that for the public. I would do that on September 20th at 7 o'clock here at the Civic Center, and somewhere on the second floor. We'll get that word out as well.
Thank you. I think that would be very helpful because there's a lot of proposed changes and fee increases, and even for myself with all the alternative options was a lot of information, so I would hate for us to make this decision and the community is not aware of the proposed increases.
Sure, I'll be glad to do that. And again, I'm willing to try to answer any question that the alderman may have now or over the next 2 weeks as well.
You're welcome.
I'm just curious if the city has thought about the properties, the 45% of the residents in the city that aren't eligible to have yard waste bins, and if the 5-gallon program will be something that Collective Resource will still be able to encourage people in Evanston to do?
Yes, I mean, Evanston will not prohibit you from providing the service that you currently do or obtaining more customers. But again, if Evanston residents have a yard waste cart for 8.5 out of the 12 months, they would be able to throw their food scraps into the yard waste cart. But you would still be eligible to promote your business, sure.
Thank you.
Thank you. Director Stonebeck, we have a, before we pass this or hold it, we have a presentation on item 3.10. Who's doing it? Marty?
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. This is a very short presentation, literally. You can't get shorter than, well, you could have, there's one slide. It's 2 slides. I think there was some issue that had been percolating about how we started the solid waste fund. Originally, solid waste operations were a part of the general fund and were subsidized through, you wouldn't say necessarily property taxes, but from general fund revenues. So back in 2011, we made the decision to create a separate solid waste fund, just like a water fund, since solid waste is on the water bill and sewer. So we created the separate fund. At the time, the council's decision was not to raise the rates up to a level that would have made the fund self-sufficient. And as noted in this slide right here, the top 2 lines just represent revenues and expenses. And sorry, at the end, that's just a year-to-date one for 2017. That's why it drops off. It's through 7 months. But you can see that on a year-over-year, with the subsidy from the general fund included, the fund runs at a modest surplus and has gone from a negative $1.5 million fund balance at the beginning to under $1 million negative, meaning that in the 5 years, it's gained about $500,000 in ground just through its operations. And during that time, the subsidy went from $1,245,000 down to $1,055,000 in 2014. So for the past 3 years, it's been doing that with $190,000 less a year. So if we'd kept the subsidy where it was, the fund would be down to about a $400,000 negative balance and steadily improving. The point being is that, as Mr. Stonebeck is, in his memorandums is pointing out, we can look at ways to have the solid waste fund be self-sufficient over the next several years. And I just wanted to point out what that was. And again, this is just a short note of what I had just pointed out. We will, if we continue on, in 5 to 7 years, we will probably have a balanced solid waste fund if we continue to be able to operate the way we have been. But we will still have a $1 million transfer from the general fund to the solid waste fund. And the water fund doesn't get a transfer from the general fund, and neither does the sewer. So we would eventually it would be good to have it as an enterprise fund and be self-sufficient. That's it.
Thank you. Seeing no additional lights. Oh, sorry. Director Stonebeck.
Item 310 is the item I hope that we could discuss a little bit tonight, because it is the one that I am seeking the most direction for as to what type of ordinances to bring back at the next council meeting for introduction. As my memo indicates, all the contracts that we're awarding show a 2018 price, and then the contract is set up that the price will increase anywhere from 1.5% to 3.5% a year over the 5-year duration based on the consumer price index. So my memos imply that I would recommend that we try to increase the rates to meet the 2019 price, even though all of our contracts this year came in less expensive than what they were last year. We received favorable bids. The prices are lower than what we had in the past. What I'm trying to reduce is the $1 million transfer from the general fund to the solid waste fund. I also feel that in the past, the same type of increases occurred on an annual procedure, and we didn't bring back to City Council a recommendation to raise the rates. So every year, that transfer was a little bit more important than what it was the year before, because we weren't charging the correct amount. The memo also indicates that it has been a while since we've actually raised rates. For several of the items, we did raise it for the condo service just last year, but the other ones have not been raised in quite a while. And so I made the recommendation that we go to the 2019 price, and that would also help offset, if we started that January 1, 2018, we're actually going to bring in more revenue that we need, and that would help to offset the deficit in the solid waste fund as well. I think the most challenging one is our yard waste fees, and it is very interesting in that some municipalities don't have a yard waste fee, so Skokie and Niles don't have a service charge for yard waste. It's just part of their property tax, which in a way is what Evanston's currently doing as well by transferring funds from the general fund to the solid waste fund. But then other communities like Glenview, you have to rent the cart, and it's $145 annually yard waste fee in Glenview. And there's a gambit in between. It's very hard to go from community to community because they have different size carts, they have different programs. It's really hard to have an apples to apple comparison. But what I'm trying to indicate is that there is a gambit out there where yard waste can be part of the general fund cost, or I would think that Glenview is actually trying to raise revenue to meet the cost of providing that service. So I want to bring that to the alderman's attention as well. But if I could have some direction on how would you like the ordinances prepared, I can at least have something crafted and introduced at the next meeting.
So one of the questions that I'm going to have Director Stoneback is, how is this going to impact the overall water bill? To be able to see a comparison table of just whatever the average home, I mean, I understand there's a bunch of different options here, so it's hard to calculate, but if you can give us the average, because at the end of the day, people are just going to be paying their water bills, and that's what they're going to complain about from my perspective.
Yes, and I understand that, and I'll try to do it for the residential. That's in the memo, actually, on A35, the last table on that. I'm getting to it. The page number is 105 of 503.
105.
So a person that has a 95-gallon cart, and if we raised it to to meet the prices of 2019, those people would, over the year, see $37.50 increase. They're currently paying the current annual charge is $215. If we went to the 2018 price, they would pay $247.92, or a $32 increase. If we went to the 2019 charge, they would pay $252 annually, and they would see a $37.50 increase annually. And then the price for a 65-gallon cart is shown next to that, which is the same for an additional cart. And so that table is there. This is the single-family homes. And then if they had a yard waste cart, that's where the biggest price difference would be seen right now. If you have a yard waste cart, after you purchase it, you pay $25 a year. I'm recommending that be increased to $60 a year. We wouldn't bill it one time. We would bill it 3 times over 3 water billing months during the summer months, so it would be $20 each time. So it would go from $25 annually to $60 annually. The biggest change, though, would be the sticker fee, and right now they're paying $1.75, and to really try to break even on on bag stuff, the cost, based on the prices that we received, should be more like $5.50. And I know that that might be too much for everybody to swallow, but
sounds like a lot.
I wanted to show what the break-even point was, and I fully understand if council wants to continue paying from the general fund to help subsidize this portion of the program.
So I have a,
I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
Alderman Rainey, followed by Alderman Fleming.
Right. I'm going to argue that we use the general fund to finance, in fact, I'd be in favor of using the general fund to completely finance all of our residential condominium yard waste and apartment recycling, refuse, etc. However, I know that's not going to happen. So I'm going to argue that we use it to at least subsidize this. And the reason I'm going to argue that is because when we charge people for water and we use the sewer tax, we put it on a bill as opposed to putting it on their tax bill. And the reason we did that is because our largest users of water were the not-for-profit institutions. So if we put it on the tax bill, they're not taxed, so they wouldn't have to pay. So that's why we put it on a water bill originally.
Oh, got it.
If we put the garbage on the tax bill, taxpayers would get a deduction. You deduct your taxes. And so I'm going to argue that we do that. I think all of these additional fees, and that's what this is it's a killer. I know people who, with these assessments lately, their taxes have gone down. I know other people, they're telling me they got a 50% increase, they got a 60% increase, but I know people who got a 50% decrease too. And for those who got an increase, the 60% increase on their taxes plus these increases just goes so far to making them so upset with their government that I think it's worth thinking about adding all of these extra. We have to do this. I mean, we have to pay the garbage people because they're raising our fees. But let's use the general fund. Let's just use the general fund. If we have to do it, let's use the general fund. I think the additional costs are really extraordinary here, and I think to add it to the monthly bill is just going a little too far.
In addition to the rate increase for the water, I agree. Alderman Fleming?
We have to pay it.
Right.
And I don't think we should exempt anybody. We have to pay it. And also, didn't we, the franchise, don't some of the larger institutions, aren't they under, they're exempt from the franchise if they could show us that they had, contracts for 10 years or something with other services?
That is correct. There are exceptions to the franchise agreement. And the franchise agreement is not up until 2020, and that's why it's not part of this package that we're bringing now.
Alderman Fleming?
So I will agree with Alderman Rainey. I had not thought through the taxes, but I would like to get a write-off if I can. I think that the sticker fee is just enormous because that's on top of having to go to Home Depot and buy your bags. And so people like me who don't even have trees on my property except for in the city parkway that I'm responsible for, I'm essentially paying for, trees that are on the city property. So I think that is a lot. And when I think about, as Alderman Rainey said, just the increase of fees, and I know we're talking about that we had the increase of the potential parking fee, and then if the boot's going to go down, it's all a lot for people we are in Cook County, where we just had a large assessment as well. So I think we need to be more creative about how we do this, and I think when people think about paying their enlarged tax bill, even though a lot of that went to District 65, a lot of people just see it all as one tax bill, and they think of us as the city of Evanston. So I am very leery about raising any of these. I think we maybe had a miss to not raise them gradually over the last couple of years, and now we're going to ask people to take a essentially a two-year rate hike is I think, not sensitive to our population.
All right. So I guess I'm agreeing, and I see our city manager coming up. My simple question is, do we have enough time between now and the next meeting to run the scenario of adding it to our tax bill and what that would look like per household? on
Certainly,
average? Okay.
and because the tax rate is not intended to increase, then we'll be faced with additional cuts citywide. So I think the balance is that if we're going to shift more of a burden to pay for these services with no additional revenue, with the same amount of costs elsewhere in the city, then we'll have to have additional cuts in next year's budget. But we can certainly.
But I don't think that's what she's saying.
We asked people to pay more for this.
I'm sorry?
We asked people to pay more for their garbage on their tax bill.
She's asking for it to be shifted to
So
our.
as long as the council is prepared then to raise the property taxes, then we'll be able to do that. And my understanding is that the council, because of everything Alderman Braithwaite you just said, was the direction was we were not going to be raising. So if the council is comfortable making this raise of the property tax to cover these costs rather than having it be a fee, then that's something we can do.
But I think, oh, go ahead.
We need to see the numbers.
Right.
So, and we can certainly do it for your next meeting. I think, that, again, as Mr. Stonebeck said, we were just looking for some direction. But I want to make sure everyone understands that there is no additional general fund property tax revenue to cover this.
Got it.
So if the council is comfortable in raising the property taxes in order to do that, then so be it. But we'll work that through. I'd also we'll ask that we at least consider that smaller increment. So if we're not going to try to bite down the $1 million with the adjustment, that we at least consider that as well. So we'll come back, Mr. Stonebeck, on the 25th with those scenarios. We also plan, as he mentioned, to have a community meeting. So we'll try to have that information available for community discussion next week as well.
I'm sure it'll be a lively one. Thank you. Alderman Sufferton?
Sure. I have two questions, and they both have to do with other communities' practices, so you may not have the answers. Are there communities that have the bag and the sticker as one thing? Like there's one bag that the city of Evanston allows you to use? So rather than having to go buy bags from one place and the sticker from somewhere else, you just buy the official city of Evanston bag from the Ecology Center or wherever and have that be proof that you paid the fee?
I don't have an answer for you on that.
All right. And then you mentioned how there's different frameworks other communities use. Where do we fit in? Like, if I was a person who treated refuse collection like a school district and I was really focused on, I want the best refuse collection possible, what community in our area would I pick?
To have the best collection service?
I mean, based on, if I looked at it like people look at schools, where it's like what you pay total, what you get, et cetera, like are we, on the curve, where are we? And somewhere in the middle, near the top, near the bottom?
The firms that bid on our proposals are providing services throughout the North Shore, and I believe they're all very good firms, and I believe they provide similar service in Evanston that they do in the other municipalities.
Okay, so it's just a matter of how it's billed in terms of if it's on your tax bill, on your water bill, whatever, but it's all,
Correct.
the service is all the same.
Yes.
Are you just asking for a comparison from some of our neighbors?
Yeah,
to
just
what
kind of
the
like
cost
ballpark,
is?
like where we fit in.
Okay.
But, you'd mentioned that there's different ways that places do it, so it's hard. It's not apples to apples.
Correct.
But just kind of,
For the rates that they charge their customers, or how they do it changes. And some have multiple different size carts. Evanston has 2. Yard waste varies differently as well compared to the residential.
And Mr. Stonebeck, members of the committee, I think it's also worth mentioning that there are other ways that yard waste is collected. And so I know some of our neighbor communities have an automated system, so it does not require, the firms that pick up the waste use an arm. And so there's not an individual taking the cart and lifting it and putting it into the truck. So that is a change. And Mr. Stonebeck, I'm not sure. I believe Kenilworth was the last community that went to the back of the home, and I don't believe they do that any longer. So are all our neighbor communities now at the curb or the alley?
When I did my rate study as best as I could for this, I saw where some communities had grandfathered some properties that still allow the carts in the backyard or something like that, and they pay a much higher fee than if they bring them up to the curb, but they were grandfathered in. if
So
they-
that would, Alderman Suffredin, be in, so the companies are all the same, the service they provide at the residence has differed. So again, those communities that would go into your backyard, walk in, get the cart, dump it, put it back, I think are largely gone. But there are some cost savings for those communities that either use a contractor or have city staff use an arm. So they're able to cover routes more quickly. It's more difficult for us given the infrastructure and the size of alleys and whatnot. That's, I think, one of the main reasons we've not really looked at that over an extended period of time. But other communities where they put out on those, everyone, there are no alleys, they put out at the driveway, they can come by. I think Wilmette has that system where it's just one driver, there's no one else, and they are able to pick everything up. So costs are different, but our costs are very competitive given the service we provide.
I may ask, it's a guy from Lakeshore, just a quick question. I'm curious to know, based on the bid price that you submitted, how does your bid price to Evanston compare to like a Skokie, Wilmette, Winnetka? Just to give us a random.
Yeah, so you had it. My name's Bill Kenny. I'm the municipal manager for Lakeshore Recycling Systems. Thank you for letting me address you. As you mentioned, it's never an apples to apples scenario. We handle 17, 18 different municipal residential contracts. Groot does. Other companies handle even more than us. But it's always different. I mean, you asked about backdoor service, for example. It's not as common as it once was, but it is still an option with a lot of communities. If you look at Winnetka, they haul their own garbage, and it's 100% backdoor. So it sort of varies. That's very uncommon. But it still exists. But there's so many different ways to go about it. When it comes to pay-as-you-throw, subscription, backdoor service, curbside service. There's so many different variables.
Okay.
So, are there any specific questions you had, or?
No, I'm trying to figure out where we fit in relative to everyone around us, and in all aspects, cost, service. And when I say service, I don't mean quality of service. I just mean like the way we do it relative to other places.
The city's unique too because of its scale. It's much larger than most typical collar areas, and you have such a large presence of condominiums, as you know. So
the thing, Alderman Fleming brought this up. When we get into yard waste, this is a big deal in my ward where most of those leaves are coming off of trees that belong to the city anyway. So it's like you're going to charge me to inoculate it, then you're going to charge me. I'm going to have to rake them up, and then I got to pay you to take it away.
yeah,
I mean, trees are awesome, but at a certain point.
yeah, it's a curse. It's a blessing and a curse.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Rainey.
When we come back and we get this information regarding the dollars, I would really like to see a comparison of, a couple of different scenarios. If we were to place all of the additional subsidy that we would take from the general fund, what would that look like? And then what would it look like if we put it on the water bill? So that we could see how it would compare to a person opening up their water bill versus opening up their tax bill.
Okay.
Okay?
Are there any other questions or directions for staff? All right. Seeing none, next we'll motion to hold item 3.5, 3.6, 3.7, 3.8, and 3.9, and 310. I just need someone to.
Second.
All right. Did you move and second your own?
I didn't know what you asked for.
So we have to hold. So you made the motion, I just need a second.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. To a date certain, right? What's that?
25th of September.
25th. All right. Thank you all. Keep us moving. Item A4 should be Alderman Suffredin.
A4 is a resolution authorizing the city manager to execute a renewal agreement with Hoffman House Catering for senior meal food programs at Levy Center and Fleetwood Jourdain Community Center, and that's for action.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded. Seeing no lights, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 3.5. Alderman Simmons. excuse me, A5. Pardon.
Staff recommends City Council adoption of Resolution 70R17, authorizing city manager to execute a development and affordable housing agreement between the city, Evanston Township, District 202, and community partners for affordable housing for the construction of a residential home at 2005 Gray Avenue. This is for action.
Do you want to take, well, we'll wait, we'll do item A6 separately, because that's, never mind.
She second.
There's a second?
I do.
Okay, thank you. Seeing no lights, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Do you want to take item A6 also?
Sure. Staff recommends adoption of Ordinance 80-017, authorizing city manager to negotiate the sale of city-owned property at 2005 Gray Avenue to Evanston Township High School, according to the terms of the Development Affordable Housing Agreement with ETHS and Community Partners for Affordable Housing for the development of 2005 Gray Avenue as affordable housing. A two-thirds majority of city council is required. This is for introduction and action.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded. Seeing no additional lights, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. We have a speaker on, a couple of speakers on item A7, and we have about 15 minutes before our next meeting, so I'm going to ask you to please line up and give you all about a minute apiece, only because this is for introduction. So Carl Klein, followed by Tom Zanuck, followed by Paul, Janicki. Paul's in the room? Where are you, Paul? Okay. And then I see someone named Chris. She didn't provide a last name. And then I'm going to assume that's Greg Steck or Gary Steck. Okay, thank you. Sir, we're going to give you a minute, if that's all right.
That's fine.
Thank you.
All right. Hello, members of the committee. There's an overarching problem happening here in Evanston. While the city has a $3.3 million budget shortfall and is desperate for dollars, developers are dictating what our city should look like by proposing plan unit developments. The city of Evanston is disregarding its plans, the 2009 Downtown Evanston Plan, the 2000 Comprehensive Plan, and zoning ordinances, which clearly state how Evanston is able to grow appropriately, with buildings and streetscapes which are in line with future needs, but also fit the character of the existing community and neighborhood. These city plans followed a transparent and inclusive process with community input and were approved by City Council as a guideline for future growth. The Downtown Evanston Plan states that Chicago Avenue lacks open space on the northern edge of downtown, and it recognizes an opportunity for a new public park at the site. It goes on to recommend user-friendly parking under the new green space. This area is densely populated and surrounded by high-rise residential buildings. What could be more in keeping than a beautiful urban park on land we already own? This is a citywide issue, not just a First Ward issue, because the land belongs to all the citizens of the Evanston and is a public asset. The proposed building is completely out of context and disrespects the neighboring historic properties. So I ask, I know this is just for introduction, but I ask that you please follow the Downtown Evanston Plan and vote no on selling the library parking lot.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, Tom, and I'm going to...
Right to speak at this time. I disagree with that gentleman, but I waive my right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Paul?
Same thing.
Thank you. Chris? Thank you very much. And then Greg. Oh, that was Greg. Okay. All right. Again, this is for introduction. It is Ordinance 52-0-17, authorizing the city manager to enter into a real estate contract for the sale of city-owned property adjacent to the Evanston Public Library at 74-1714-1718 Chicago Avenue. Moving. It's been properly moved and seconded. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Item A8, Alderman Fleming.
Staff recommend that City Council adopt Ordinance 86-0-17, reducing the speed limit from 30 miles per hour to 25 miles per hour on Chicago Avenue between Dempster and Sheridan Road. This is recommended suspension of the rules for introduction and action at the September 11, 2017 City Council meeting.
Yes.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded. And again, this is for introduction and action. Seeing no lights, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item A9.
Thank you. Ordinance 84-017 is for introduction. It's for the sale of surplus property. Direct the city manager to offer for sale vehicles and equipment owned by the city through public auction at the special Northwest Municipal Vehicle Auction being sponsored by America's Auto Auction on Tuesday, October 24, or on any subsequent America's online auction as these vehicles and equipment become available on a timely basis for introduction.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded. Seeing no lights, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Alderman Suffredin, last item, A10.
Ordinance 72-017, amending the city code section 11-211B, the immobilization program by amending the amount of liable tickets needed to immobilize a vehicle from 5 to 3 for introduction.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded. Alderman Fleming.
I have a question for staff. So can you just tell me what the fee is for the boot at this point, if you know anything about the fee going up, and then how much the city actually collects from that fee?
Who's got that? Someone going to respond to Alderman Fleming's question? Thank you.
Good evening, Chair Braithwaite, members of the committee. We'll have to get back to you on that answer. We don't have it right now.
Okay, thank you.
Just Alderman Rainey.
I'm going to support this, and the reason I'm going to support it is because of the arguments that came out of the Parking and Transportation Committee, and that is one of the arguments that made the most sense to me is that people get in terrible trouble after receiving 5 parking tickets, and then they get the boot, and it almost becomes financially impossible for them to recover from and pay the parking tickets plus all of their late fees, plus the boot fee, plus if the car is impounded for a day or two, the storage fees. So it becomes a horrible situation. Whereas if they get 3 tickets, the pain is shortened and the cost is less. And you're going to get the boot if you get 5 tickets. You're going to get the boot now if you get 3 tickets. This is not a regressive situation because none of us need to get tickets. You can get 1 ticket. It's very inexpensive to pay that ticket. I am going to make a reference tonight that in those neighborhoods, this issue came to me today. Is it appropriate to make a reference during a discussion? May I make a reference?
I think
It's about tickets.
Okay.
There are neighborhoods where street cleaning requires a tow. There's special, not every street cleaning neighborhood gets towed. So those neighborhoods that require a tow, I am going to suggest that those neighborhoods must have posted on trees, maybe 3 trees on the block, a brightly colored sign 2 days in advance saying street cleaning on Tuesday or street cleaning on Friday, tow away zone. Because people who do not live in that neighborhood, who do not receive a text message, who drive into that neighborhood unaware, and the sign is at the end of the block will come back to their car and find their car towed. And that happens to people in this town, and then they are unaware that it's a tow zone street cleaning day. So that will alert them. And I know several people, and one in particular today, maybe others received a note from this person. And I think that will be very helpful. And we do not do this in order to raise revenue. We don't. We do it to clean the street. So I'm going to suggest or ask that that be incorporated in our ordinance where there is street cleaning towing, which shouldn't cost us that much money. So.
Okay. Marty, I just have one quick question. At the last meeting, and I didn't see if I tried to find it in the memo, I brought up, so for a household, it has multiple cars. If the vehicles are registered under one person's name, do we have, should this pass, have you made the administrative change that it's per vehicle, not two vehicles in one household, counting multiple cars
Chairman
together?
Braithwaite, committee members, no, we have not made that change.
Okay.
Because that change would have actually then changed it effectively from 5 to 6 instead of from 5 to 3. And so there is no change in the ordinance as presented.
So for those of you who have children, drivers, members of the council, and everyone else out there, including our staff who live in town, so if you have a kid who drives a car and the kid, your name is the vehicle, your kid goes out and gets a couple of tickets that you don't know about, and then you get an additional ticket, then one of the cars can get booted without you knowing about it. It's happened to me before. I can tell you about it. So I'm a little concerned about that.
I would just like to make a statement about that. So the reason that the ticket is tied to the vehicle's registered owner is because when the vehicle is disposed of or sold or anything else, then that ticket still remains the responsibility of the vehicle's owner. If we were to change the way that we give out tickets and only giving them to the vehicle, then we would never be able to collect on them after the vehicle is sold or disposed of or et cetera. So that is the reason that there's no administrative way for us to separate out multiple vehicles in a single household.
Alderman Fleming?
So I have a quick question. I think you mentioned this earlier. So given that situation, did you tell me whenever that you could now print on the ticket to say this is your second ticket, you get one more, you're getting a boot? Or I remember there being something about our new system that we can print some things on the ticket.
Our new system that we're getting is going to allow us to do payment plans electronically and have a better system for managing them. So we hope to expand the usage of that program. But I don't know specifically if the technology will allow us to ascertain at the point of issuance whether or not the offending vehicle has a ticket in the system. But we'll look at that. That might be an option that we could then print on the ticket. This is a reminder, your second ticket, et cetera. But we also intend to print on the back of the ticket the payment plan being available.
Well, that's great. But I guess then how do people know if they're boot eligible? I have not gotten one in a long time. So I just want to make sure, that people get something in the mail or whatever it is if they do have this situation where they have various
It's a lengthy
cars.
process with multiple notifications. I'll
Okay,
let,
thank you.
The division manager explain it.
You actually just, Jill Velan, chairman, members, nice to see you. You just answered the question. You get notified. There's notifications that go out when you become boot eligible. So just like notifications when you, for license suspensions, all of that, it's automatically generated through the system.
Alderman Rainey?
Unless your child comes home before you do.
Yeah, right. I haven't figured out a way to solve that, but I'll keep that on the list. So,
This does not go into effect until after the amnesty period is over. And the reason we are doing this is because of the only reason I'm supporting this is because we're having the amnesty program where people can get rid of all their tickets.
Correct. We didn't set a date, so we're looking for direction from the council at a start date for this.
Yeah, I noticed that. But this is just for introduction tonight.
Correct, so we could do,
Yeah, it can't go into effect until after the amnesty program.
yeah.
Well, it's only for introduction, so it's
Yeah.
not in effect, so we'll deal with that next time.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments?
Yes.
Alderman
If-
Rainey?
If you've received those notices about
Sure.
2 or 3 tickets in the mail, please pay them.
Okay. All right. All those in favor of, this is for introduction, item A10, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, so we have 1, 2, 3 items for discussion. One is the capital improvement plan, Northwest University tax exempt property analysis update, and then also an overtime report from departments. I want to be respectful to whomever made the request, but I'm going to ask the question, given the fact that it's 7:15 and we haven't started P&D, and I think we also have a presentation to our young families from the youth, Mayor Summer Youth Employment Program. Are there any of these items that we can move to our next council meeting?
I would just request that the tax exempt properties be part of the budget materials available online for citizens, and we can definitely move the discussion, but I think that the information in the memo is useful, and that would just be my request, but I'm happy to move it.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Mr. Chair?
Yep.
And I would also say the CIP discussion is also budget-related, so that could also be included, and we would definitely add that. We have several budget
Right.
memos already in the hopper before our first meeting, which we'll have the meeting on Wednesday night. So we will have a lot of memos coming out to be posted on the website.
Thank you. So that's item APW1. Everyone all right with that?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. And so the last one will be APW3. Are we okay with holding that discussion? Okay. Thank you very much. Are there any items for communications?
I think my reference.
Oh, right.
That should go to parking and transportation or to this committee?
Can you speak in your mic, Alderman Rainey, please?
Sorry. Should my reference about the signage go to parking and transportation or to this committee?
I think parking and transportation.
Parking and transportation. Thank you. All right.
Or maybe just to staff? I don't know.
Thank you, Alderman Rainey. So the plan development meeting will start at 7:30. Is there a motion to adjourn? All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you.